The autumn rain had been falling steadily over Manchester for 3 days straight, turning the city streets into glistening mirrors that reflected the grey October sky. Tyson Fury pulled his hood up as he stepped out of the small cafe on Deansgate, clutching a steaming cup of tea in his massive hands. He had been in the city for a routine meeting with his promoter. Nothing fancy, just business as usual for the heavyweight champion. But as he walked towards his car, something made him stop. There on the wet pavement beside a shuttered shop sat a man who looked to be in his late 50s. He wasn't holding a cardboard sign, wasn't rattling coins in a cup, wasn't even making eye contact with the steady stream of pedestrians hurrying past. He simply sat there, shoulders hunched against the cold, staring straight ahead with the kind of stillness that spoke of deep, unshakable weariness. What caught Tyson's attention wasn't the man's obvious homelessness, or even his dignified silence. It was the small, tarnished military badge pinned to his worn jacket, the insignia of a British Army regiment, dulled by weather and time, but still unmistakably there. Tyson had seen that same badge before on his own brother's uniform years ago. Without hesitation, Tyson approached the man. The sounds of Manchester traffic faded into background noise as he crouched down, bringing himself to eye level with the stranger. Up close, he could see the weathered face of someone who had seen things most people never would. The man's eyes held that particular 1,000-yard stare that Tyson recognized from his own family. "You served?" Tyson asked quietly, his deep voice cutting through the ambient city noise. The man turned his head slowly, as if coming back from somewhere far away. His eyes focused on Tyson with surprise, not at being spoken to, but at being seen, really seen. He nodded once, a simple acknowledgement that carried the weight of years. "Gareth Doyle," the man said, his voice rough from disuse. 12 years, Her Majesty's Army." Tyson removed his cap, water droplets falling from the brim, and without ceremony, sat down on the cold, wet pavement beside Gareth. Passers-by slowed their pace, some recognizing the famous boxer sitting on the ground, but Tyson paid them no mind. His attention was entirely focused on the man beside him. "My brother served as well," Tyson said simply. "Afghanistan. Came back different. We all did in our own ways." Gareth's eyes flickered with recognition, not of Tyson's fame, but of shared understanding. There was something in the boxer's tone that spoke of genuine comprehension, not the hollow sympathy he'd grown accustomed to from well-meaning strangers over the years. "Where did you serve?" Tyson asked. "Helmand Province. 3 tours," Gareth replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Long time ago now." The two men sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the endless stream of people hurrying past with their umbrellas and urgent errands. The rain continued its steady rhythm against the shop windows, creating a curtain of privacy around their conversation. "You still dream?" Tyson asked, the question coming from some deep place of personal knowledge. Gareth's laugh was bitter, but not unkind. "I just wake up tired," he said. "Every day. 7 years now on these streets, and I wake up more tired than when I went to sleep." Something in those words hit Tyson like a physical blow. He had heard similar sentiments from his brother during the dark months after his return from deployment, the bone-deep exhaustion that came not from physical exertion, but from carrying invisible wounds that never seemed to heal properly. "What's your story, Gareth?" Tyson asked, settling more comfortably against the shop wall. "If you don't mind me asking." Gareth studied the boxer's face for a long moment, searching for the usual signs of pity or judgment that typically accompanied such questions. Finding neither, he seemed to make a decision. "Lost everything after I came back," Gareth said matter-of-factly. "The nightmares, the drinking, the anger I couldn't control. Wife left, took the kids. Can't blame her, really. I wasn't the man she married anymore. Lost the job, then the house. Been here ever since." "Here specifically?" Tyson asked, gesturing to the particular stretch of pavement they occupied. "This corner, yes. 7 years, same spot. Don't know why, really. Just feels right, I suppose." Tyson nodded, understanding that sometimes the seemingly random choices homeless people made had their own internal logic, their own comfort in familiarity. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts, stopping at a name he hadn't called in months. "Gareth," he said, looking up from his phone, "I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. If someone offered you a chance to get off these streets, a real chance, would you take it?" Gareth's eyes narrowed slightly, the wariness of someone who had heard empty promises before. "Depends on what you're asking. I'm asking if you'd let me help you, not with handouts or temporary fixes, something real, something permanent." The older man stared at Tyson for a long time, rain dripping from both their faces. In that moment, something passed between them, an understanding that this conversation was about more than charity or publicity. It was about one person recognizing another's humanity and choosing to act on that recognition. "Why?" Gareth asked finally. "Because you served your country, and your country failed you. Because my brother came back from the same war you did, and he was lucky enough to have family who knew how to help. Because sometimes the universe puts people in front of you for a reason." Tyson stood up, water running off his jacket, and extended his hand to Gareth. "What do you say? Will you let me try to help?" Gareth looked at the offered hand for a moment, then reached up and grasped it firmly. As Tyson pulled him to his feet, neither man could have predicted that this simple gesture would set in motion events that would change both their lives forever. Tyson's first call was to Marcus Webb, a property developer he'd known for years through various business dealings. Marcus owed Tyson a favor from a previous investment, and more importantly, he was the kind of man who could make things happen quickly when needed. "Marcus, it's Tyson. I need a house. Today. Nothing fancy, just clean, safe, and available immediately." Gareth stood beside the boxer, still processing the surreal turn his day had taken. 20 minutes ago, he had been invisible to the world, just another homeless veteran among thousands. Now he was watching a heavyweight champion of the world make phone calls on his behalf. "I know it's short notice, but this is important," Tyson continued into his phone. "Budget isn't an issue. I need something a man can call home, somewhere with dignity. Can you help me?" As Tyson spoke, Gareth found himself studying the boxer's profile. There was something about Fury's manner that spoke of genuine concern rather than the performative charity he'd occasionally witnessed from other celebrities over the years. The man wasn't checking his watch or looking around for cameras. His attention was entirely focused on the task at hand. "Brilliant. Text me the address and I'll meet you there in an hour," Tyson concluded, ending the call. He turned to Gareth with a slight smile. "Right then. Looks like you're getting a house today." "I can't accept this," Gareth said quietly. "You don't even know me. I could be anyone. I could be dangerous, unreliable." "Could be," Tyson agreed. "But you're not. I can tell. 12 years in the army teaches a man to carry himself a certain way. You've still got that bearing, even after everything you've been through. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." They walked together towards Tyson's car, an understated Range Rover parked nearby. Gareth hesitated at the passenger door, acutely aware of his appearance and the contrast it would make with the vehicle's pristine interior. "Get in," Tyson said, noticing his hesitation. "It's just a car. I've had worse things than a bit of rain inside it." The drive through Manchester took them through familiar streets that Gareth knew intimately from his years of walking them. But seeing them from inside a warm, dry vehicle gave them a different quality. They passed other homeless individuals, and Gareth found himself looking away, feeling an unexpected surge of survivor's guilt. "You're thinking about the others," Tyson observed, glancing at his passenger. "How did you know?" "Because you're a decent man. It's written all over your face. But you can't save everyone, Gareth. Sometimes you have to let yourself be saved first." They drove in comfortable silence for several minutes before Tyson spoke again. "Tell me about your family, your wife, your children. Do you ever think about reaching out to them?" Gareth's hands tightened in his lap. "Sarah remarried 3 years ago. Good man from what I hear. Accountant, stable, everything I wasn't when I came back. My kids, they're better off without me. How old are they now?" Emma would be 22, studying at university. David's 19, just started his apprenticeship as an electrician. Gareth's voice carried a mixture of pride and pain. "They send me messages sometimes through the Red Cross. Birthday cards. They don't know where I am, but they remember. They love you," Tyson said simply. "They love who I used to be. I'm not that man anymore. Maybe not, but maybe you could be a new version of him. Someone they could be proud of again." The property Marcus had found was a small terraced house in a quiet residential area about 20 minutes from the city center. It was nothing spectacular, but it was clean, recently renovated, and came fully furnished. More importantly, it had the indefinable quality of being a home rather than just a house. Marcus was waiting for them when they arrived, a slightly built man in an expensive coat who seemed genuinely pleased to be part of whatever was happening. He had prepared all the necessary paperwork and handed Tyson the keys with a theatrical flourish. "All sorted," Marcus announced. "Council tax paid for the year, utilities connected, and I've stocked the refrigerator with basics. The previous tenant left some furniture, nice pieces, all clean and in good condition." Tyson handed the keys to Gareth, who stared at them as if they were made of platinum rather than ordinary metal. "It's yours," Tyson said. "No strings attached, no expectations, just a place to call home." "I don't know what to say," Gareth whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Don't say anything yet," Tyson replied. "Let's go inside first. See what you think." The front door opened directly into a small but comfortable living room. The walls were painted in warm neutral colors, and the furniture, while clearly second-hand, was clean and well-maintained. There was a small kitchen visible through an archway, and Gareth could see stairs leading to what he assumed were bedrooms. "It's perfect," he said, running his fingers along the back of a sofa as if testing whether it was real. Marcus excused himself, mentioning something about other appointments, but not before clasping both men's hands and expressing his pleasure at being involved in what he called a proper good deed. His departure left Tyson and Gareth alone in the quiet house. "There's something I need to tell you," Tyson said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "This isn't just charity, Gareth. I'm not doing this to feel good about myself or to get recognition. I'm doing this because I believe every person deserves a chance to rebuild their life, and sometimes that chance comes from the most unexpected places." Gareth nodded, still somewhat overwhelmed by the rapid transformation of his circumstances. "I understand, and I want you to know I won't waste this opportunity. I know what it means." "I know you won't," Tyson replied, "but I also know that having a roof over your head is just the beginning. The real work starts now. Getting your life back on track, dealing with whatever demons drove you to those streets in the first place." "I'll manage," Gareth said, though his voice carried less certainty than his words suggested. "You don't have to manage alone," Tyson said. "I'm going to give you my number. Not for emergencies, not for gratitude, but because sometimes a man needs someone to talk to who understands. My brother went through his own struggles after coming back. I learned a few things about what helps and what doesn't." As Tyson prepared to leave, he paused at the front door. "Take your time getting settled in. Explore the house, make yourself comfortable. But Gareth, I want you to promise me something." "What's that?" "Promise me you'll give yourself permission to be happy here. Whatever guilt you're carrying, whatever you think you deserve or don't deserve, put it aside for now. Just allow yourself to enjoy having a home again." After Tyson left, Gareth stood alone in his new living room, keys still clutched in his hand. The silence was different from the silence of the streets. It was peaceful rather than empty, full of possibilities rather than resignation. For the first time in 7 years, he was truly inside, truly safe, truly home. Gareth spent his first hour in the house simply walking from room to room, touching surfaces and opening cupboards with the wonder of a child exploring a new playground. The kitchen was small but functional, with modern appliances and a window that looked out onto a tiny but well-maintained garden. Upstairs, there were 2 bedrooms, the larger of which had obviously been the master bedroom, complete with a double bed and matching furniture. It was when he returned downstairs to explore the living room more thoroughly that something on the far wall caught his attention. It was a framed photograph larger than the others, hanging slightly askew as if it had been disturbed recently. He approached it with idle curiosity, thinking it was just another piece left behind by the previous tenant. The photograph was old, the colors slightly faded in the way that pictures from the early 2000s often were. It showed 3 young soldiers in British Army fatigues, standing together in what appeared to be a military compound. The background was dusty and sparse, clearly somewhere in a combat zone. The 3 men were smiling, their arms around each other's shoulders in the universal pose of military camaraderie. Gareth's breath caught in his throat. His hands began to shake as he leaned closer to the photograph, his eyes focusing on details that seemed impossible, surreal. The soldier on the left was unmistakably himself, 20 years younger, his face unlined by the hardships that would follow. But it was the soldier in the middle who made Gareth's knees buckle. "No," he whispered, reaching out to touch the glass covering the photograph. "This can't be real." The face staring back at him from the center of the photograph belonged to Private James Morrison, his closest friend during his final tour in Afghanistan. Jamie, who had died trying to drag Gareth to safety during an ambush outside Sangin. Jamie, whose death had haunted Gareth's dreams for 15 years. Jamie, whose memory had driven him to drink, to rage, and ultimately to the streets where shame and guilt had kept him for 7 years. Gareth sank into the nearest chair, his eyes never leaving the photograph. The third soldier, on the right, was Corporal Danny Chen, who had also died in that same ambush, caught by sniper fire while providing cover for the evacuation. 3 friends, immortalized in a moment of happiness that preceded their tragedy by less than a month. His hands were shaking so violently now that he could barely hold onto the chair arms. The room seemed to spin around him, as memories he had spent years suppressing came flooding back with devastating clarity. The sound of the explosion, the acrid smell of smoke and cordite, Jamie's voice calling his name, the weight of his friend's body as Gareth tried desperately to drag him to cover. With trembling fingers, he pulled out his phone and searched for the address of the house, cross-referencing it with directories and social media until he found what he was looking for. The previous tenant had been Sarah Morrison, Jamie's sister. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. Sarah Morrison, who had written to him after Jamie's death. Sarah Morrison, who had invited him to the funeral that he had been too broken to attend. Sarah Morrison, who had reached out multiple times in the months following the tragedy, only to have her letters go unanswered because Gareth could not bear to face the family of the friend he felt he had failed to save. He had been sleeping rough outside the home of Jamie's sister for 7 years. 7 years of maintaining his vigil on that particular corner, drawn by instincts he had never understood. 7 years of unconsciously standing guard over the memory of his fallen friend, never knowing that just a few yards away lived the sister who had tried so hard to reach him in his darkest hours. The phone slipped from his nerveless fingers and clattered to the floor. Gareth collapsed into the chair again, this time allowing the tears he had held back for over a decade to finally fall. They came in great shuddering sobs that seemed to tear themselves from the deepest parts of his chest, releasing years of grief, guilt, and self-recrimination. "I'm sorry, Jamie," he whispered to the photograph. "I'm so sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I never came to your funeral. I'm sorry I couldn't face your family. I'm sorry I've been hiding from your memory for all these years." The room seemed to hold his words, absorbing them into its walls like a confession finally given voice. For the first time since that terrible day in Afghanistan, Gareth allowed himself to truly grieve for his friend, to feel the full weight of loss without the numbing buffer of alcohol or the distracting misery of life on the streets. Without thinking, he dialed Sarah Morrison's number, finding her contact information through social media. The phone rang 4 times before a woman's voice answered, cautious and slightly tired. "Hello? Sarah Morrison?" Gareth's voice came out as barely more than a whisper. "Yes. Who is this?" My name is Gareth Doyle. I served with your brother Jamie in Afghanistan. I don't know if you remember me, but you wrote to me after." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for so long that Gareth began to wonder if she had hung up. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "Gareth. Oh my God, Gareth. I've been trying to find you for 15 years. "I know," he said, tears starting fresh in his eyes. "I got your letters. All of them. I couldn't face you. I couldn't face anyone who knew Jamie. I felt responsible for what happened to him." "Where are you?" Sarah asked, her voice urgent now. "I'm in your old house," Gareth said, the words sounding surreal even as he spoke them. "On Hartwell Street. I've been given it as a home. I found the photograph of me and Jamie and Danny on the wall." Another long silence. Then Sarah's voice, wonderstruck. "You were the man who used to sit outside my house, every day for years. I saw you from my window, but I never realized it was you." 7 years, Gareth confirmed. "I don't know why I kept coming back to that corner. It just felt right somehow." "Can I come over?" Sarah asked. "I mean, if you're comfortable with that." "Yes," Gareth interrupted, surprised by his own certainty. "Yes, I think I am ready. I think I've been ready for a long time. I just didn't know it." 30 minutes later, Sarah Morrison knocked on the door of the house that had once been her home. When Gareth opened it, they stood facing each other across the threshold, 2 people whose lives had been forever changed by the same tragedy, meeting for the first time since the weeks following Jamie's death. She stepped into the house, and immediately her eyes went to the photograph on the wall. "I left that behind when I moved," she explained. "I couldn't bear to take it with me, but I couldn't bear to throw it away either. I thought maybe someday the right person would find it." "Maybe they did," Gareth said. From her handbag, Sarah pulled out a thick envelope, yellowed with age. "I've carried this with me everywhere for the past decade," she said. "It's the last letter Jamie wrote before he died. He asked me to give it to you if anything happened to him." With trembling hands, Gareth opened the envelope and unfolded the single sheet of paper inside. Jamie's handwriting was immediately recognizable. "Doyle," the letter began, "if you're reading this, then something has gone wrong, and I'm not coming home. I want you to know that whatever happened, it wasn't your fault. We both knew the risks when we signed up. I need you to do something for me, mate. I need you to live. I need you to go home to your family and build a life worth living. Don't carry guilt that doesn't belong to you. Take care of my sister if you can. She's going to need friends who understand." When Gareth finished reading, he looked up to find Sarah watching him with tears in her own eyes. "He always said you were the best of us," she said. "He would be heartbroken to know you've spent all these years blaming yourself for his death." As they sat together in the house where fate had brought them both, Gareth felt something shift inside him. The photograph on the wall no longer seemed like an accusation. Instead, it felt like a blessing, a reminder that love and friendship could survive even the worst tragedies, and that sometimes the most profound healing came from the most unexpected places. For the first time in 15 years, Gareth Doyle began to believe that he might be worthy of forgiveness, and that perhaps it was time to start living again.